Carter G. Woodson could not attend school full-time. That did not discourage him from his studies. At 17, he had self-taught himself by mastering all the fundamentals of common school subjects. Even though Carter G. Woodson completed his PhD in history in 1912 from Harvard University, having earned his Bachelor of Literature from Berea College in Kentucky and a master's at the University of Chicago, he spoke highly of the knowledge he acquired through his own initiative than that which he learned in the classroom. Based on his self-taught knowledge, Carter G. Woodson became convinced that the roles of his people in American history and the history of other cultures were either being ignored, systematically excluded, or misrepresented among scholars. He then set out to research on the neglected part of the Negro. As a result, he teamed up with Jesse E. Moreland and founded the Association for the Study of Negro Life and History on September 9, 1915 in Chicago. To communicate with the masses, he founded and published a well-respected mouthpiece called the Journal of Negro History. What drove Carter G. Woodson to be so interested in creating a period to reflect on the history of black people? Can you imagine that an African American designed the layout of the capital of the United States, Washington, D.C.? Do you think we should learn about him in school? What subject will make that possible, if not history? The man I'm referring to was Benjamin Banneker. He was not just a surveyor. At the age of 30, he had invented and constructed a wooden clock. He was also a scientist, astronomer, writer, anti-slavery publicist. In 1791, he invented the almanac. Another example is the air conditioner. Think of summer with the temperature hovering over 99 and 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Many people cannot survive without an air conditioner. The inventor who brought this comfort into our homes and offices was an African American named Frederick M. Jones. The air conditioner was invented by this man in 1949. This statement speaks volumes of why Carter G. Woodson dedicated his life for the contributions by blacks or Africans to civilization to be recognized. I've met mathematics teachers who knew nothing about African contributions to mathematics, ministers who could not properly place African people in the Bible, physicians who had never heard of Imhotep, and students from Southern Africa who knew nothing about Nile Valley history. One factor that all these people had in common was that they had been educated by the very people who had written them out of history. What is it so important to know who Imhotep was? Imhotep, the one who comes in peace, or Imhotep means the one who comes in peace. Imhotep, at the height of his life, held very strategic and important position in ancient Kemet, renamed Egypt. He was also a surgeon who performed the first brain surgery in history. Carter G. Woodson singled him out when he referred to physicians not knowing who he was, because if they knew this, they would recognize Africa as a land surgery was first introduced, taught, and performed before other people or other persons thought of it. He was also an architect, a high priest, a scribe, and a vizier. Imhotep built the first pyramid called the Step Pyramid. He was also the Prime Minister of Kemet under King Dosa between 2630 and 2611 BC. When you hear African Americans greet each other with Imhotep, it simply means they are approaching each other with peace. When was the first Black History Month celebrated? Black History Month, the brainchild of Carter G. Woodson, was single-handedly pioneered as a celebration in 1926 called Negro History Week for the second week in February to coincide with the birthdays of Abraham Lincoln and Frederick Douglass, respectively. The week was later extended to the entire month and renamed Black History Month. Carter G. Woodson spoke about the best-kept secret about African history and the contributions Africans made to civilization. The secret Dr. Woodson is talking about is what is hidden from African Americans and Africans back home in Africa. Also, all people of African ancestry in Central America, South America, and the Caribbean. First, we have to define a secret. What is a secret? A secret is described as something known only to a certain person or persons and purposely kept from the knowledge of others. And why is this so? When you don't know any subject, you can be lied to about it, and yet you would not know it. The objective of an oppressor is to keep oppressed people uninformed. Take, for example, the discovery of America by Columbus. Now we know Africans came to the land of the Arawaks long before Christopher Columbus. The Garifuna people, legendary naval aviators from Africa, probably set sail before Amerigo Vespucci or Vasco da Gama dreamt of navigation. But the oppressor wants you to know of his story, which is to give Christopher Columbus credit for the discovery. I want us to celebrate this with a man. My guest today is a humble, simple individual, a giant in a profession only God can teach. He's doing it with dedication and determination, with knowledge unmatched. He is Mr. Hans Modest, a creator of things others cannot even imagine, let alone think of making. He is what Black History Month is all about. When a black person is denied certain rights, he or she either fights or improvises. With recycled materials, Brother Modest can create the hair market. Think about that. And I can continue to pile accolades on him, but I'm certain he's not comfortable with all that. Mr. Hans Modest, welcome to Divine Speech.
Welcome, my brother.
Tell us something about yourself, your upbringing, and how you came to this calling, that you do things, certain things, that when people pass by, people who don't know anything, people who don't know much, don't think that you're doing something. But those who do, they'll stop and talk to you.
Yeah. Very early in life, I had occasions to feel that I was not really blessed. Mm-hmm. You know, my father and my mother and all that kind of situation. So it was like almost in the earlier part of my life, I had to depend on me to some extent. Mm-hmm. I, at an early age, was making my own toys, mm-hmm. you know, to play with and all that stuff. Because sometimes, you know, because not that we were dirt poor, but because there was a lot of things missing. So we had to improvise, like Christmas times, I get a couple of dollars to make, to buy things, but we'd make our own toys, and because I'm from the Caribbean, we always use our hands. We always made things.
Right.
It's just second nature because we made things like tops and whatever was in season
Okay.
to play with.
Right.
We made those things. So it's second nature to me. I don't really consider myself specially gifted or anything because of what I do, because I've always been doing things.
Right.
However, I must say that sometimes what one might consider a curse could be a blessing.
Okay.
In disguise, because like I said, if I had people buying my toys for me and all that stuff, I might not have been preoccupied in making my own things.
Right.
So I think to some extent that explains why I continue to follow in that tradition, because I've always made things.
But how did you come to making these things that have a historical connection to the land that we all, call beloved?
Right, and because also too, because when I came here to this country and I studied, I did a little more studying in African culture, because I always had doubts about what he was telling us about Africa. I never really could verify any of these things because everything that was said about Africa when I was coming up was negative.
Right.
I mean, the movies were negative. Everybody was trying to make Africa this place that nobody wants to, be any part of. And I was always questioning and asking, why? Why is that so? Okay. You see, because I saw there were things going on I didn't really understand at the time, but I was always concerned. So when I got here, and even when I was in the Caribbean too, I knew some more things about Africa, but not as much as I did when I came here and I studied the culture. You see?
Right.
And when I studied the culture, I was just amazed of what I was discovering about our people. And now, it's just everything is blown out of proportion because we know that black people are all over. It's not just in Africa, but there are cultures. Black people did a lot of things all over the world. South America, China, India, you name it. Black people presence is there, and that's why when I do my art, I try to include that to give a sort of a vast spectrum of our experiences, so that we're not limited just to just being in the West. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And we have accomplished a lot. And again, the studies I have done conducting African history or the story of the black man have brought me into the conclusion that everybody's following us.
Right.
And that there's nothing that we can do if we really tap into that type of information, and also having the confidence to do or to go where our ancestors have been, even though we're in this kind of situation,
Right.
Yeah. So basically, that explains that, But you'd ask me another question.
Let's just try to deal with this Black History Month. As an artist, the person that I actually would describe as a preserver of our creative legacy. What can you say about Black History Month, even though I just given a narrative as to why, it was important for Carter G. Woodson to insist that we have at least a month to celebrate this. What do you think about Black History Month?
It's a time for reflection, It's really a time for reflection. It's a time for introspection.
Okay.
It's a time to consider that we are people, and we have been always making history. We have always been cultivating. We always have something that we have been working on. So it's a period of time to really reflect on these traditional values. What our ancestors were doing. I'm very much concerned, about these things because it inspires me personally. Because everything in the West concerning black people is negative. We didn't do this and we didn't do that and we did everything. Everything is based upon another man's culture, and
right.
It seems as though we have done nothing.